I've been asked a lot how to clean an intake manifold, how to get it back looking new, how to take all the dust and debris and stains out of it. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of right ways to do it and a couple that are not so right. So let's get started on this greasy old pig. So as you see, this thing is pretty filthy. It's had a lot of years of service, and it's just been well used. Typical underhood for a situation where obviously you're in a pretty dirty environment, or maybe you're a little neglectful of how you treat it. But either way, it's a good question on how to clean these things. So I'm going to show you how I do it. And then I'm going to show you a couple of ways that were suggested to me, see if it's any better, and then we'll see how this thing looks and how it turns out after it sits for a little while. So again, you can spend a lot of different time and a lot of different ways of doing this, but I'll jump right in. I'm going to show you the cleaning products that were suggested to me, and then we'll kind of talk about how we're going to go through this process. So I have a couple of go-to products that I use and a couple of different processes that I haven't used. One of these I use fairly frequently. I use it almost on everything, but all of these are fairly caustic in nature other than the Zep degreaser. We're going to give that a try. I was told that that works brilliantly. I can't remember the way the guy actually said it, but acetone carburetor cleaner, muriatic acid's kind of an interesting one. We're going to give that a try. Clorox bleach has been one, and then just a regular sandblasting. That's with walnut shells. That's a fine crush. I'm assuming that's what you use on an intake manifold, but we're going to give it a try. No one was very specific on that. And that one I haven't done before. So, well, I have. It's just been quite a long time, and I didn't use that material. I used a glass bead and seemed to work well. But these are the ones that were suggested to me, and these are the ones we're going to give a try. With anything else, when you're using this type of material, safety glasses are a big absolute. You cannot do this job without safety glasses. The other is a good set of gloves. Now, these are pretty thick ones from Harbor Freight or something, but you're going to need that. Keep your hands and eyes protected. That's pretty disgusting stuff. You don't want it on you. So we're going to try all these individually. We're going to try little pieces on that intake manifold. Give it a try, and then we'll clean it off and see how they all look. So we'll get started, and I'll just show you one by one and how the process goes. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done. All that's dripping down into my underneath here. That's going to be a mess underneath. Oh well, lesson learned, don't be an idiot. Now, a couple of things before we get started. We're going to try the brake clean carburetor cleaner first, but I got some conflicting information from some folks or things that they suggested. Others said that a metal wire brush was fine. Others said you absolutely have to use brass. I don't know why that would be any different. Others said you can't use anything other than a toothbrush. You don't want to mark up the manifold with other scratches in it. I can see all of it, but quite honestly, I think what we're going to do is we're going to probably just start with a regular old metal brush, and then we'll try a toothbrush as well, just see if it happens. So let's grab the safety glasses, and then we will start with the carburetor cleaner. So not too bad. There's a little scratch that was there from before. Looks like it took up quite a bit of the staining. I'm going to go wash this off now to kill the caustic nature of the carburetor cleaner, and then we'll start on the other side. Alright, so it didn't do too bad. It's got a little bit of staining here that I'm not quite sure is from just not getting it all the way with the carburetor cleaner or what. I'll continue to kind of brush that a little bit as we go along. I think the brake clean's going to have the same effect on it, so there's no need to duplicate that. The other one that I want to try here is the acetone. Now that one I was told is absolutely the only way to go. It does the best cleaning, doesn't stain or it won't get into the pores of the intake manifold, whatever. It evaporates fast, so you got to kind of clean it fast. Okay, whatever. So that's the one we're going to try next. Okay, so the acetone didn't work too bad. It did get, I think, probably maybe a little cleaner than the carb cleaner did. Don't know, maybe it was the different amounts of time or whatever. I did scrub on this a little bit more, but it does dry faster, that's for sure. You have to keep moving, and I think with that one, to keep it from getting back into previous work, you're going to have to continue to wash it as you scrub it, type of thing. I hope that makes sense, to keep the dirt and debris and all that stuff from getting back on your work and having to go back and re-clean it and maybe re-scrub it. But yeah, not too bad. The acetone didn't work out too bad, so I'm okay with it. Let's move on to another one here that I've got asked about quite a bit, and that is good old Zep. So I'm a little, I mean, it is a good degreaser. I don't know how it's going to get the stains and all that out of there, but let's get it in a cup. Let's dilute it down a little bit, and we'll see. Okay, that's about a quarter of the way full. I'm going to dilute this down just a little bit. I'm going to leave it a little bit stronger strength than what you normally would, so that's about a 1-to-1, maybe a little less, but we'll give it a shot, see how it works out. Well, let's get it washed off, see how it did. Okay, the Zep wasn't too bad. It doesn't quite have the same shininess as the acetone did, but it certainly did a pretty decent job. I kind of rounded off the corners a little bit. I kind of scrubbed the top here, a little bit here on the fitting for the water neck or the water jacket there, but it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's better than I thought it was going to be. But it is a little more dull now that it's had time to kind of set up and kind of settle in. I did wash it off, washing off this intake every single time between these tests with water, just to clean it off, let it dry in the sun for a few minutes, and get back to it. So, yeah, I would call it decent. In a pinch, it certainly got the big stuff off there, but it's not too bad. All right, next one we're going to try is the muriatic acid. Now, this one kind of concerns me, so I'm going to be a little more cautious with this one for sure. The mixture's a little bit different. It doesn't take near as much of the acid with the amount of water that I'm going to use here. It suggests using a plastic bristle brush, so I have one of those. So yeah, I'm going to mix this very carefully. I'm going to glove up. I'm going to put on a shield as well, just because this stuff's very caustic. And again, I'm not very optimistic on this one, but it was suggested, so let's give it a try. Okay, so our muriatic acid test is over, and I don't know that I would be very happy with the results. It's very dull, the staining is there, and it tells you right on the instructions that it's not a degreaser. It doesn't do that. It's really good for some things. Concrete, I guess, is what most people use it for, or driveways, whatever the case may be. I don't use it that that often for anything. So for me, it was just kind of buy it to test this out. But as far as it works on aluminum, so far that's the worst of the ones we tried so far. So let's move on to the next one. All right, next up is Simple Green. Now this one's already diluted, so it's just ready to spray right out of the bottle. But I know this one fairly well because I've used it fairly frequently. So this one's pretty simple, just wire brush, and let's get started and see how she do. Alright, there's that nice, clean, as-cast finish that I was looking for. I kind of tried to do half of the logo here, of the Hawaiian logo, and leave the other half a little bit. I think I accomplished that for the most part, but very clean. The stains are out of there. Doesn't look too bad. It's a little bit duller finish than like the carburetor cleaner, but it's maybe a toss-up between the two. I'll have to kind of evaluate them as I go, but very, very nice. So some staining that was that I could see as the big chunky dirt was brushed away. That's mostly gone. The simple green is certainly a favorite, so I absolutely love that, and it looks good. It's mostly the finish that I want. It's not too bright, and it's a little duller than normal, but again, you're not going to restore it back to that perfect finish right out of the box, but I like it. Looks good. So let's move on to the next one. All right, this one was suggested, and it's just regular bleach. Now, this is an outdoor bleach. I don't know if that makes it any stronger, but it's what I had. So not quite sure how this one's going to work. We'll give it a shot on this area here and see how it turns out. Alright, that's the bleach. I'm not hating on it, but it's too inconsistent. It doesn't really kind of give a clean to it, I guess, is the best way to put it. Maybe water and a little bit of scrubbing is what got all that off there, but it didn't really take, you can kind of see it's a little, well, maybe you can't on video, but it's just inconsistent. It doesn't have a nice, even surface finish to it. It's just not really meh. It's a C- student is what it is. It's not really, I mean, it smells nice. It smells like clean laundry, but it's about it. So that's it for all the chemical solutions we're going to try on this intake. This bigger area back here we're going to hit with the next one, and that is the Sandblaster Media Blast. So I've got the fine walnut grain that we had up here earlier, and I'm going to try to do this entire area with it, just see how it turns out. So I'm going to go set that up, get that fired up, and we'll start blasting. Okay, and we're done with the blasting with the walnut, fine walnut. It did okay, but all the staining is still there. All of the big junk got blasted off there. That's cool, I guess. But yeah, it's still very much stained, and did okay in some areas, but in others, meh, not so much. So let's rank them from worst to best and see how they did. Okay, now that we're done, we're going to go ahead and rank these, and I'm going to give you my totally biased opinion here. But again, it's me. You know, you may like one look of these a little bit better, but I will tell you which ones that I like from worst to best, and we'll start from there. The worst area is the sandblasting. Now, that is partially probably my fault. I don't have the best equipment in the world. If you had a better blaster that could hit that a little bit better, maybe the material's not right. The walnut just seems like it was the best, as it's very fine. I've used glass beading before. I didn't like the way it looked afterwards. It was too polishy or shiny looking, and just didn't like it. So blasting's number 7. Number 6, I think, is the muriatic acid. It did okay. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not there's better things out there. Number 5, I think we're up to, is the bleach. Did okay again, but there's some staining there that just didn't take out of there, and I don't know that you're going to get that out of there. And quite honestly, I don't know if bleach is the best thing to use on aluminum. Same with muriatic acid. I don't know if that's the best thing to use on it, but meh, it is what it is. Number 4, the Zep didn't do too bad, and I think probably the reason why it did as good as it did is it's a bit of a degreaser, or it is a degreaser, so it did remove a lot of that, but it didn't really give you that shinier as cast finish that you get with a finished intake manifold. So it did okay. I mean, really, really good. I would be, if I was just going to try to clean something up and get as much of the stuff off there as possible, I would be okay using that. Everything else from here on up is pretty doggone good. Number 3, I think I will go with the carb cleaner. Again, it did okay, but I don't know if I want to stand there huffing carburetor cleaner, fumes for, an hour trying to polish up something. It did okay. I'm not knocking it. I would be completely happy with that finish when it's all said and done. But again, I don't know how friendly it is to your hands and everything else. Number 2, I think, is the acetone. I'm not, it took off, most of it, the things that I would want to. It didn't leave it as a super shiny finish when it was done. And it got most everything out of there. I think if I probably scrubbed a little bit harder, or maybe switched up the brushes instead of going with the metal brush, maybe using the brass one, maybe it would change it a little bit. But very honestly, the acetone, I never used it before. It's a great idea, so whoever came up with that or gave that to me is one of the things to try. Good on you. That's certainly the number 2 qualifier. But there's only one number 1, and for me, it's the go-to. It's the one that Edelbrock says to use. Obviously, other manufacturers will tell you the exact same thing. Soft bristle brush or a metal brush is just fine, and simple green is really the best solution for it. It will give you that nice, almost looking like it's that as cast. It's a little on the dull side, but again, you're not going to make this thing look just like it did when it came out of there. But really, I've done intake manifolds with that method a dozen or so times, over the last 5 or 6 years, where I need to clean something up, and I would be very happy to do this entire intake manifold in just simple green and call it good. So that one for sure. That one's always going to be my go-to. So you may have some other things that you would like to use, or you would like to have seen me test out on here. Is what it is. One of the things that came up that I thought of as I was doing this is just regular Dawn dish soap. That seems to be the magic for everything. I'm sure it would probably clean up quite a bit of this as well. I don't know where it would fall in, but out of the 7 things that we tested, that's kind of where those land. The other thing I get a lot of questions on too is, okay, now that it's clean, what do I do with it? Can I shoot it with some clear coat? And I've seen that done before, and maybe this is me being ignorant to it, but every time I've seen somebody clear it, it tends to kind of get a little yellowish. Now, maybe that's from the heat, maybe it's from poor quality clear coat, maybe it's using it in a rattle can, maybe there's a better way of doing it. That I don't know. If you've got any comments on that or thoughts on clear coating an aluminum intake in that as cast finish, to make it look good and make it last longer, I'm all ears. Shoot it at me. I'd love to hear what you've had success with. But anyway, that was just a kind of a down and dirty, simple thing. I wanted to try out a couple of those. A muriatic acid one I'd never used before. Bleach I'd never used before. Pretty much everything else I've at least had my hands on once, twice. So anyway, I hope you got something out of that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And I guess we will catch you guys on the next video. We'll see ya.